Animation has gone through so many changes over its many years, from ink on paper to tablets and computers, visual effects from photography methods to CGI rendered After Effects, and even going so far as to replacing hand-drawn animation completely with CGI models. As animation has been evolving and changing over the many years, so has artificial intelligence, even to the point where you have major publishers like Netflix actually utilizing AI for animation projects. And while that's only been pretty much limited to background art itself, a recent video by Corridor Crew has pretty much begged the question, best put in their own words, did we just change animation forever? I think, sadly, yes. To give a background for those that are completely unaware here, AI art has been booming insanely over the last few years. Utilizing algorithms and pre-existing art as a base, it has become harder and harder to tell what has been generated and what is an original piece of art. At the same time, the process for converting photos and images into art itself has been advancing as well. Choose one of your many make yourself into an anime character apps that is available online right now. You can already tell where this is going. But in a sense, we're sort of seeing the creation of an auto-rotoscoping process being developed right now from two different directions. Again, AI to create art, and the process of turning photos into art itself. Rotoscoping in an animation process being essentially where you take an actual live action film and you essentially draw over each frame in a cartoon style. So yes, the more difficult process of course becomes, how do you blend the two of these processes together? Because yes, technically a video is a series of frames and stills that in a sense can be converted into 2D art. Take a pause of me, throw it in a generator. Take another pause of me, throw it in a generator. If you can tap into that process perfectly, you essentially create that auto-rotoscoping process I mentioned. And the Corridor Crew, with the help of many available open source stuff, has essentially created a workflow that did that. And did it really good. I won't get into the whole heavy details of exactly the whole workflow process, and you can find all of that stuff by checking out their video and as well as their full tutorial on their website. But again, the end result itself is what's shocking. And honestly, after I watched it, I immediately thought to myself, I wonder how many calls they've gotten from Netflix right now. Because yes, this process, this workflow, if perfected, is essentially exactly what a lot of publishers would love to have their hands on. Companies that want to create animated stories and sell it as animation and anime, but not have to have an entire crew of animators to put together. Distilling it down to a workflow that all you really have to have is essentially a blue screen recording of somebody acting out a play, and then shoving that into the workflow, give it some sort of art style, and then thus, in the end, you have an animation. It's essentially what gaming has been using for quite some time now with mocap. These big studios that are created with people with little ping pong balls all over their bodies and some sort of process is recorded, which then they didn't put into a system where CGI models are moving to their flow of motion. But you don't even need all that high-tech equipment. Again, all you need is some really well captured footage of somebody on a green screen, and then you throw it into this generator. And yes, you're gonna need good lighting, good recording. I'm not downplaying what they did here. I'm just saying, in a sense, this is going to create possibly a workflow that could be perfected to the point where it's so easy to process, because once the work's done, once the process and the workflow has been created and perfected, it then becomes an easier process in the future to just have some people act out a scene, throw it to the workflow, and you have an animation. No animators needed, just AI. And as I joked about before, and technically is the truth, what we've seen with the whole comments made by Netflix and their producers and their directors through this whole little short they made, this is exactly what they want. They want an AI system that can create animation without the use of a team, without animators, without artists, just a computer. Earlier stages of the development process for a show can essentially just be some person that creates art style, creates multiple character designs that it's going to kind of restrict itself to when it generates the characters themselves from the capture. So once you create that style and design and you force the algorithm to focus on that style and not jump around to other types of styles, it's able to create a character, as you see with what Corridor Crew did, that just is amazing. It's so precise. Now, I don't think this is a replacement for all animation. there's still a lot of work being done here. There's a lot of After Effects that even the Corridor crew put into their process. And this is not something I see being very well put into play with something that requires more action-based scenes. Capturing an action scene or bombastic flying around, or let's say Dragon Ball Z flying around the air and punching each other, is not something that's very easily captured on a green screen with actual humans. But it at least tells me that for things like a rom-com or non-action type shows, dramas, slice of lives, this could be something that can easily replace actual animation. Again, like I said before, it's essentially auto-rotoscoping. Like what we've seen with Flowers of Evil. It was essentially a bunch of characters, a bunch of actors themselves that was recorded in a classroom, acting out a scene, and then afterwards, they drew over each and every single frame. And again, if you could do that same live action recording and then throw it through this workflow, it's something that can easily work. And if the workflow is perfected, it can generate a show much faster. And that's where we get to the big question. Corridor Crew shows that it can be done. The tools are readily available and pretty much mostly available for free. So is this a good thing for the future of animation? Me personally, I don't think it is. Because you still need people with passion like the Corridor Crew. You obviously see in the short that they made that they put a lot of passion into it. The characters themselves has a lot of expression. They have a lot of over-the-top bombastic action that's happening even in their particular short they did. But still, remember, this is live action turned to anime. And the one thing that live action and humans cannot do is what anime does. Anime has always been over the top. It's always been, let's face it, not human. It's always been overly expressive, overly animated, exaggerated. Watch any Trigger show. That's anime. Anime is exaggeration. Anime is breaking all logic. It breaks physical logic. And when you start to get into the realm of possibly having all anime essentially be mocap, that's where we lose the heart of anime. Because in most cases with animation, specifically anime, Japanese animation, expression, storytelling, and emotion is all expressed through exaggerated animation itself. And that's something that an AI can't necessarily portray through the process of pulling from mocap, from pulling from live footage. There still needs to be somebody there to give that artistic spin to it. And yes, like I said earlier, I can see this being something that can be utilized and not necessarily ruin something like a slice of life. Something where you don't need too much exaggeration to express the story. The story is in the characters and their conversations rather than their expressions and the actions of their body and the environment around them. But again, it's still, in the end, it comes down to, can you get heart from computers, from AI? Can you get art and the heart of an artist and the imagination of an artist from an AI? I don't think you can. And this is obviously something that I got into quite a bit when I talked about that whole story from Netflix about them using AI-generated backgrounds. I feared the future that animation will become AI. That Netflix themselves have openly admitted, and I think every single producer in the world of anime would admit, they would love for the day that they can press a button and it auto-generates a story, auto-generates a bunch of character designs, auto-generates a bunch of scenes, and auto-generates the playout of the scenes themselves, and everything being animated by the press of a button. A software that auto-generates everything for you, and they publish it on their site, they broadcast it, and people pay for it. Yes, while I agree with a lot of people that AI and AI art itself is really exciting, computers can't create imagination. They only create what the algorithm tells them. They only create what the program tells them, what information you feed it. Just like with AI art, it only creates what people have created before. It mimics it and it recreates it in a different way. That's why there's a lot of people that can pretty much look at AI art and kind of tell that looks like this particular style. And yes, that's going to be something that's going to be harder and harder to do as time evolves it. But at its heart, it's missing imagination, in my opinion. I don't believe a computer will ever have the imagination of a human. I just don't believe it. It will only have the imagination of the programmers. It will only have the imagination and the limits of what it's programmed to do. And until I see a piece of art or an AI-generated animation that really does affect me emotionally, I don't think I'll ever care for it to exist. Because human-created art, human-created stories have made me emotional. But maybe that day will come. But I'd love to hear what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments down below. What do you guys think of the Corridor Crew video? Did it scare you? It kind of scares me. Did you like it? Does it excite you for what's to come in the future? Would you love to see more anime done like that? I would probably like it in a different style. That kind of, yes, they kind of used a more Vampire D style, but it kind of reminds me a lot with the filters and stuff of something like Castlevania or something like that. But I don't know. We'll see. Wonder if they'll actually do like a more modern style, anime style of it. Maybe like a KyoAni style of it would be really interesting. But let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure that like button down below. If you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button so you get my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, a super thanks button down below, as well as a membership button. Greatly appreciate everybody it does. And y'all take care.